If you want to look at today's photo, that's all right. That's all right. Oh, yeah, okay. Brother Mark knew. Thank you for clarifying. I'm teasing. Brother Mark's a good sport. So the goal of this is not a math lesson. I just did it hopefully to prove a point in just a second. But when I saw that little joke on a notification, it struck me funny. I sent it to a fellow math teacher because it is kind of cute if you understand it. Just out of curiosity, we're not going to belabor this. I'm just using it to prove the topic of my Sunday school. Did anybody know what it meant? Why it's funny? It's okay if you don't. Okay. So maybe at some point you remember seeing this symbol. And again, this isn't, I just made some visuals. So you might know, in case you don't heard these words in a long time, that's a square root. So if you take the square root of a number, let's say like the number 4. 4 is a perfect square. Don't worry about that. But the square root of 4, if you put it under the square root, you're going to get, anybody remember that? 2. Or, there's 2 answers. 2 is the principal square root. -2. Because the square root means what number times itself will give you that number under the square root. So 2 times 2 is 4. -2 times -2 is 4. But what do you do in math when you find, because sometimes in lower grades people make false comments. You can't take a square root of a negative, and they don't mean to be doing that, but that's not actually true. Math has a way of dealing with that. So what happens if you get a -4? And you want to take a square root of that? Nope. That's different. A negative outside the square root would just mean if you have a negative square root of 4, you have a -2. The negative is like a constant or a coefficient in front of the square root. Negative underneath is very different. You may, if you've not seen that. So how do you take the square root of a -4? Math has a way of dealing with that. It's called I squared. They define, so if you had any math in high school, you may remember something called imaginary numbers. I tease kids in math, you have imaginary numbers. It sounds kind of common. And it introduces complex roots that lays the foundation. So I squared is -1. So how do you take, so the square root of I squared would be I. So it takes care of the negative. Because you can rewrite -4. Don't worry about the math. This is just kind of for fun. The -4, that's 4 times I squared. You can take the square root of something squared. And you get 2I. So the answer of the square root of -4 is 2I. But when someone loses an I, it's no longer fun. Ha, ha. Okay, thank you, Brother Mark. Because the math problem isn't possible without the what? The I. Okay. So don't worry about any of that. If somebody wanted to know more, you can see me privately and I can try. But not for right now. That's just a little quick lesson. And the purpose isn't to teach you math. But the goal of this, it wasn't a superficial, unnecessary math lesson in Sunday school. If I surveyed all of you, there may have been some of you who got it. Maybe you kind of got the gist of it. Maybe not. The joke, or there may be ones of you who you still don't get it. It doesn't matter. That's okay. That's not the purpose. If it were actually necessary and serious, if that were the case, I could do a much more intense one-on lesson with you if you desire. I'm not sure anybody's going to beat down my door for that. But individual lessons for this joke, it's not necessary. But I want you to think about how it felt to feel clueless. Now, I did not put a pressure on you to understand what I was talking about. You knew I used this as a superficial example. You knew that my explanation was just a little brief background to show you that, in essence, I said a bunch of stuff to say to you the answer should have an I in it. Then the joke made sense, Brother Mark Gibble. Okay, so I could have just said the answer's supposed to have an I. Ha, ha, ha. But I kind of went through it with you. This situation was no big deal. But in some life situations, it's a very, very stressful place to feel clueless. I mean, that's just life. It is very, very stressful to feel out of touch or out of the know. And if you're expected to, like I think about work, if you're expected to do something at work and you feel clueless, you don't feel prepared because of your training, that's a horrible feeling, isn't it? That doesn't feel good. Now you have a choice in how you tackle that, right? You have a choice in surrendering to the uncertainty or trying to find answers and do the best you can. We had a major technology switch over in my work. Stuff is not syncing. I don't have access to stuff. I have not spent the past week whining and complaining because I don't have access. It's going to be okay. I taught long before kids had computers. I can make it. I don't care. It's going to be all right. Now, it doesn't feel good. I want access to that. I have stuff I really could start putting up there. But I'm not going to waste my time worried about that. They'll get it when they can. Most people right now are very overwhelmed with the switchover. I probably rank down here on a normal day, but I probably rank down here in terms of my trouble with everything they have going on system-wide. I'm not the priority. It's going to be all right. So sometimes, though, it can be very stressful. If you're in a group setting and friends are referencing topics you're unfamiliar with, that can be kind of frustrating for you. Sometimes it can be kind of boring, can't it? If you're sitting in a conversation, I don't know why she's giggling, but if you're sitting, I don't want to know. If you're sitting in a situation, somebody's talking about something, you're like, oh, it can be a little frustrating or boring. And you can actually end up, you just want out of that situation, don't you? Or you can be a good sport and you can listen. So familiarity with today's joke probably varied if it even existed, but that's not what's important. Something may have come to memory. Someone remembered square root, and that a -2 times a -2 is 4. But the joke was no big deal. The image containing that joke for me was an avenue to build a connection. You know what it's like to feel maybe out of touch or not be aware. Maybe to feel like you have a lack of connection to the topic or whatever's being talked about. But for me, this is the topic I wanted to focus on. I want people to become familiar. You were maybe not familiar with this. Maybe some of you were and stuff came back to your mind. Maybe you don't ever remember seeing it. That's all right. But when I talked about it and I explained it, somebody who wasn't familiar got what the joke, why it was kind of cute. I want people to be familiar with God's love. And I'm going to use this phrase a lot, in the know, quote unquote. You may not have been in the know about this stuff. It doesn't matter. Your life will proceed quite successfully without it. It's all right. That's okay. But people do not succeed through life very well not being familiar with God's love. Some of them may look on the surface like they're doing okay, but my goal, that is my goal in life, for others to attain an understanding of what it means to feel God's presence in their lives. That I want people to be in the know about. For some people, it's just as foreign as this math to some of you. And that's sad, isn't it? So when you have discussions, when you talk about priorities, and you talk about church being a priority, or financial things being a priority, there are people, they're not in the know. They don't get it. So we have a choice. How do you treat those people who aren't in the know? What is your goal? For me, I did a brief lesson. Even if you didn't understand anything of it, someone in here understood, oh, it's supposed to have an I in it. Ha, 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 an I is missing. He got the gist. Well, for some people, that's a starting place, isn't it? So start learning about what it means to love God, and they can get that from observing our life, possibly. So mine, goal, one of mine, I want others to attain an understanding, to be in the know, to be familiar with what it means to feel God's presence in their life. I want them to feel his unimaginable love. That hurts me to think people go day and day without it. That really bothers me. I mean, I just want so badly, if you could just get someone to see it, for someone to understand what it means. I want someone to experience his endless ability to bring peace to a situation that otherwise could make you lose your senses. He can bring peace to situations when there could be none. Yesterday, when we were driving, Rhonda Ray and I were very fortunate. We went to the singing, the little choir night. And the way we went, we drove through where we went when we took my sister to a specialty appointment. Not to be sad, but we went that way, I think. Or at least on our way back, we went that way. Because I looked over, and there was the Chick-fil-A. So we stopped at that Chick-fil-A, and it brought to mind that was the day we found out she had a tumor. Now, we've all faced different situations in life. But I really don't know. I know what it's like to be with a loved one when they're told that news. But I don't know what it's like to have someone look at me and say, I'm sorry, you have a tumor. And then they talk about you to the next steps. That can be overwhelming. That can make you lose your senses. Carolyn had a peace that really only something bigger than us could get. So much so, we stopped at a Chick-fil-A on the way home because you still got to eat. Life's going to go on. You can't stop because something, it's like at work. I'm not going, I can't teach this next week. They can't even give me access to Canvas. Oh, grow up. I mean, that's ridiculous. I'm being a baby. I can make it. Actually, they told us not to even approach the topic of handing out computers to kids until Wednesday. I told the tech guy, I'll go all week without it if they let me. I'll just do them without it for a whole week. I'll be just fine. I'll be all right. I've done it before without it for many, 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 many years. Life will be okay. But for people to understand that God truly gives you a peace when a situation can overwhelm you if you're not careful. It's not fun to hear that news. It's not fun to be told on a phone call, get them to Chapel Hill or Duke today if you want them to have any hope. Okay. I mean, I was told that. If you want her to have any hope of living, get her to Chapel Hill or Duke today. We had a major concern of how do we get her to the car? And we had help. Or we would not have, I don't know what we would have done. I mean, I really don't. I'm not sure she would have made it. Okay? But God provided, didn't he? And he gave us that time with her afterwards. You don't have to lose your senses. Situations can either be overwhelming and suffocate you, or they present themselves as an opportunity. I did not want to spend nights, and I'm a big man. Do you know how it's like to be my size and sleep in a hospital? I'm not 5'2". I'm under 6 foot. And laying there is quite interesting. But you do it because you love them. It's all right. In the process of that time, it wasn't something I wanted. I didn't want to be in the know of that situation. That was something stressful. But we got to meet a lot of nice people at the hospital. The lady who walked us out on the day my sister passed was so kind to us. And she just said something so simple that meant a lot to us. She said, I wish you the best. I can tell you're good people. I just appreciated that. And she hugged us. You didn't have to do that. Everything in life, it's either a situation you let overwhelm you, or with God's help, it's not fun planning a funeral. That ain't fun. I've now done it more than I would like to think. I hope I don't have to plan another one. But when we went, you get to look at caskets. Back in the day, now they have it digital. Maybe because of people like me, they have it digital. Because I went in to look, and all of a sudden it struck me. Oh my word, I'm looking for what I like. That's a weird feeling. You're looking at caskets trying to pick one out for a loved one. All of a sudden you find yourself saying, ooh, I like that one. That silver looks nice. And you're like, ooh, I'm looking at caskets. And I'm finding the one I like. So to break the ice, I asked the funeral director, I said, can I try one out? But I didn't get in one. I mean, what are you going to do? Stand there and be miserable? You don't have to feel good. But what are you going to make of the situation, right? What did you make of this situation? It didn't matter. I'm going to tear these up and throw them away. Life went on. It was just a joke. But you weren't in the know, but life was okay. The goal for me, can people be in the know of what it means to experience God's love, to help people, to understand the help that he brings to your life? For my life, now this is for me. You all may have it down pat, and if you do, you pray for Danny. For me to manifest to someone else that I care. And more importantly, not that I care, God cares. That matters. You never know who you encounter if you're their opportunity to realize what it's like to be in the know. Okay, in the joke this morning, it didn't matter. But I want for all that we encounter, for all people, ideally, they will find out what it means to be in the know of what it means to experience his love. In 1 John 4:8, he that loveth not knoweth not whom. It says if you don't love, you don't know God. I didn't write it, so don't look at me. God is what? Love. I know he's a lot of other things, but he only does those things. He only has those roles in our life because he loves us. 1 John 4:16, and we have known and believed that the love that God hath to us, God is love. And he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in who? God. You have to dwell in love, and God in him. I want people to be in the know of what it means to experience God's love. Last night, some of us were very fortunate. We were able to attend that special choir night. And after it was over, sometimes things just strike me. I don't even know. Sometimes there may be things that strike you I don't remember hearing. This struck me. And I could tell it struck my wife because she may have been the reason I tuned in better because she kind of reacted to it. But there was a comment made that really struck me. Brother Ken just came up to speak after it was over, and it was mentioned they wanted to show what a blessing and deliverance it can be to serve God. He said, and I thought this was very interesting, There is a lot of hate being shared in the world. There's war being shared. And there is division being shared. But his hope and prayer for last night was that they showed a little bit of the love of God. And that struck me. And I thought, Lord, I pray for myself. Help me help others be in the know to experience the love of God. When it was mentioned that they just wanted to share that little bit of God's love, that really touched my heart. And I want people to be in the know of what it means to experience it. I, as a result, have to be cautious of how I live so that I do not betray my intentions. I have to be careful of that I don't betray my intentions. I may have intentions to show love, thank you. But do I betray those intentions because of how I choose to act in a situation or a circumstance? If I'm hateful, unapproachable, arrogant, holier than thou, condescending, rude, all the things we know we're not supposed to be. But I don't want to unintentionally betray my intentions to others. Whatever negative term you can come up with that you'd like to insert there, I don't want that to be what I'm showing the world. Because if that's the truth, then I'm not showing the world that God offers a different life. You're going to encounter all those things quick enough, soon enough. Distance and from people. People in the world will keep a distance and separate themselves and segment to all kinds of crazy extremes. But I don't want people to experience that. I want to ask myself, will I make others feel that I'm in the know of his love? Or will they not feel that either? Would they feel anything different from me? And that would be sad for me to think that they would not think that I am portraying that love to them. And every chance can be an opportunity that it's allowable. We have to use common sense. Some situations aren't always exactly the most pristine for that, and God will give you wisdom. But Acts 4, in verses 1 through 12, I'll read those to you pretty quickly. And as they spake unto the people, the priest and captain of the temple and the Sadducees came upon them, to John and Peter, being grieved. Now listen to this, people who are actually grieved that they taught the people and preached through Jesus the resurrection from the dead. So just because you want to show people and have them in the know, you were not necessarily in the know on the joke, but I tried to give you enough little information to feel like you could be. For some people, that may be all we ever offer to their life, a little glimpse of what it means to have God's love in your heart. But at least it's something, isn't it? But it doesn't mean you won't face opposition. Being grieved that they taught the people and preached through Jesus the resurrection from the dead. They laid hands on them and put them in hold until the next day, for it was now eventide. Howbeit many of them which heard the word believed, and the number of the men was about 5,000. It came to pass on the morrow that the rulers and elders and scribes and Annas the high priest and Caiaphas and John and Alexander and as many as were the kindred of the high priest were gathered together at Jerusalem. And when they had set them in the midst, they asked, by what power or by what name have you done this? And people may ask you sometimes, how can you have peace in this situation? How on earth can you seem calm? Well, you know what? It's an opportunity not to glorify yourself, but to say, because I know God loves me. You cannot help situations. I mean, if anything adult living teaches you, if you just try to think, you'll always have your hand on everything, you can become a very miserable adult. Because unfortunately, it just doesn't happen, does it? Those of us who live long enough. You just can't. I wish I could have taken cancer away from loved ones. I could not do that. But what did I do with the opportunities that were presented to me? Did I show love? By what power or by what name have you done this? Then Peter, filled with the Holy Ghost, said unto them, you rulers of the people and elders of Israel, if we this day be examined of the good deed done to the impotent man, they are being examined for something good that happened. Isn't that sad? By what means he is made whole, be it known unto you all and to all the people of Israel, that by the name, so he gave credit where it was due, by the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, whom ye crucified, whom God raised from the dead, even by him does this man stand here before you whole. This is the stone which was set at naught of the builders, which has become the head of the corner. Neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men, whereby we must be saved. Now, when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled, and this phrase was used by Brother Allen recently. They took knowledge of them that they had been with Jesus. Do people take, what is knowledge is taken from me? Would be the question I could ask. Do I have a spirit that would encourage people to want to be in the know? This, I may not have inspired your curiosity about mathematics, but that's irrelevant. It's no big deal. Jesus is a big deal. Would someone marvel and say, I want to be in the know of what it means to have that love in my life? Would someone inquire about it? And beholding the man which was healed standing with them, they could say nothing against it. And sometimes people, you face situations and they ask how you deal with it, and there's nothing they can say against it. They have nothing to offer. But isn't that wonderful? Because you can give credit where it's due, and that's to God. Because you want them to be in the know of what it means to serve Him. And it saddens to me, it's so sad to me when I read that people were actually grieved that Peter and John were preaching in verse 2, Jesus. They wanted everyone to be in the know about Jesus and what He meant, what it meant to experience Him, the one who had resurrected. And you know, we can face opposition. The world will not always like what we have to say and what we stand for. But the potential opposition should not stop us from living Christ's love before others. You know, like I said, I don't have access to some things that I'm very accustomed to having access to very quickly for teaching, but it doesn't stop me from doing my job. I can't use it as an excuse. Well, if they can't have their stuff ready, then why do I have to be ready? Oh, grow up. That's ridiculous. I have to make accommodations and adjustments. It's going to be all right. So we'll face opposition. Despite opposition, it could not be overlooked, and it had to be acknowledged, no matter that they were opposing them. What still could not be denied? That Peter and John had been with Jesus. Could that be said about me in a difficult situation or circumstance? Because I think about that. I think about things you deal with and when they hurt you. And certain things hurt very deeply. You know, my niece texts me, please pray for her. She, I don't know what Rhonda Ray and I would do without her. And she knows that. We very much love her and appreciate her and her family and what they do for us and mean for us. But she is just hurting. And my other niece, too, I'm afraid, is very much hurting and probably has adopted somewhat of an avoidance, if possible, to think about it. And that's, you know, these things come in stages when you lose someone you're that close with. But I think about my one niece. She said to me yesterday, and it just tears my heart up for her. She has never grieved for someone like she has our sweet Carolyn. And, you know, it's because Carolyn was very subtle and behind the scenes. One of those you don't really know what they do until they're gone. That's just the life she lived. And now my niece is just hurting. She loved her. But you know what? You can't let those things, and she's not. The devil can use that to oppose you, to make you think, well, where is this love that we keep saying we have? Oh, it's there. It helps you weather the grief. When the hard time comes, when I hear songs or things that make me think of her, you know what? It helps me remember that she's out of everything that was bothering her on this side. And though I can't see her again, though I wish I could, the other day she came to my mind, and it's just those moments that hit you that are so raw. And those of you who've lost loved ones know what I'm talking about. You can't text them about your day. They can't do that. But the reason I can't text her is she is as far away as we're going to get from this world of worry. There's a reason for me to have happiness. You got to remind yourself sometimes. You got to look for it some days. I'm talking look for it. But you can find it if you let it. So can someone interact with me today and say, I believe this man is in the know of something bigger than this world? Can someone acknowledge, I believe this man has a love that's better than what the world has to offer? And I don't want people to think those things for my own honor and glory. Now, that is far from it. Y'all would hopefully know I don't mean that. I want people to feel that I'm in the know of something that they now want to be a part of. That math joke would be what we call innocuous. It's unimportant. Your life is going to go on today without understanding imaginary and complex number system. But I think it serves an analogy that sometimes we are in on things and sometimes we're not. And that's okay. It should be every believer's goal to draw people to this wonderfully amazing love of Christ, shouldn't it? Peter and John were facing terrible opposition. I ain't facing nothing like that. And we may face our own. And some people will try to belittle what we believe. They'll try to discount what we believe. They'll try to discount your best efforts to show love. There are people, and I guess they mean well. You're doing what you feel you got to do to show love in a situation. And oh my word, everybody has an opinion and can be so critical. Well, how's that showing love if you do this? Well, you know what? It ain't my concern. But if I know an individual and I know they're going to do the best they know and understand, then my prayer is that what they're doing will manifest love. If something needs to be changed, it's probably not my big mouth that's going to change them. Let God show them. It should not deter us from loving others just because we face opposition. How I react to a situation, and this is what I try to remember. Maybe you've mastered this, but I'm a grown man. I sometimes have to remind myself how I react to a situation is my choice. I can blame the situation. I can blame others in the situation. But how I react to it is my choice. And the most recent thing I can relate to is losing my sister. And that's not fun to lose one, much less two. I'm not looking for pity. I'm being real. I had no idea my life would include that. I had no idea my life would include a specific trial that I face. God will help you and be faithful through those difficult situations. After my hardest trial came my greatest blessing, Rhonda Ray. Don't tell me God ain't good. I don't want to experience that again. But hey, I got to meet her. If that was part of the joy of it being over, I say thank the Lord. So do I surrender to the power that Christ can give me to maintain love during a difficult situation or something that's frustrating? Or do I ask Christ to help me find a way to manifest his love in an even greater way as a result of what I'm facing? God forbid I would surrender the power that he could give me and give over to. It's easy to give over to fleshly notions, isn't it? It's easy to give over to frustration and anger. You know, I could have spent every day my sister was sick, angry at cancer. I could have spent every day angry at, I don't know what. But was it going to change anything? No. I had to choose with each day to live it the best I understood with God's help and with his grace. And God helped me to show love. I pray. I don't know that I didn't think of it that way then. But when these difficult times come, God helped me to focus on praying that I show his love in an even greater way as a result of the situation I'm facing or I'm experiencing. It is my choice. In John 13:34-35, a new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples. And I like this verse because I'd never really thought much about it until you really study a specific topic. How do people know we're his disciples? What's it tell us? If we have what ourselves? Love. That's the proof I'm his disciple. Basically, my love. I could exhaust myself doing all kinds of things, couldn't I? And I'm not going to read 1 Corinthians 13. But if you wanted to, you can exhaust yourself doing all kinds of stuff. You can exhaust yourself trying to be everything to every individual. You can exhaust yourself trying to relieve the world of all its complications. And none of that may be anything if what's missing from the life. Love. When I read that verse, it makes me want to ask myself, and I'm asking this of myself, how is my love? I think that is a question that anybody could reflect on. Because how can I help others be in the know of the love of Christ if I'm not first working on my own access to his love? If I'm not nurturing that love myself, how am I going to manifest it to other people? And we all face difficult, discouraging times, but I need God's help to lean on his love and guidance to help me navigate them, or I could miss an opportunity to share his love, couldn't I? I could be so wrapped up in the situation and the circumstance that you miss opportunity. I saw a really sweet post, and I don't think she'd mind me using her name. She never seems to mind. She's not an introvert. But yesterday I saw a sweet post on Facebook from Sister Debbie. Her local family was together practicing for a big event. And when I looked at that picture, she doesn't know this. I showed it to my wife. And I said, that's Mama Love. She didn't have to write it. She didn't have to say, I'm taking this picture because my children are all together once again. I had a mama who loved me. I can infer some things. That was love. That's because her babies are together. She wanted to capture that moment because everybody recognizes, those of you who have grown children, as they grow older, is it always likely they're always in one spot together? Sister Tammy can attest to this big time. It's not, is it? They live their own lives. Things change, whether however the situations are. They're not always together in one spot like they were when they were growing up and living together. Didn't I say that, Rhonda? Do you remember that? Yeah. When I looked at that photo, I turned it around. I said, oh, that's Mama's love. Because she wanted to capture it. Because she wants to keep that. Now I can pop up in her memories. As life changes and different events happen, she has a memory of one more time they were together. And now she has that captured. Last night, I hope, was an opportunity for them to demonstrate God's love. Every chance and circumstance can be. I'm not taking away from events being stressful. It is not fun sitting. I'm just using this as an example because it's what I can relate to. I don't have grown children. Y'all that have grown children who have faced marriages and having families of their own, I don't have that. My wedding was no stress. Especially when it was just you and your spouse. We're too old for that. You know what I mean? Ours was easy. But I can relate to you drive. How was it run to the Duke about 3 hours? I don't want any pity. I ain't telling this to make us look. No. You would do it for your loved ones too. You would do it probably for me. God bless you. But you drive 3 hours. And maybe you've worked all day. But when you get in there, nothing prepares you for changes in a patient. And Sister Debbie worked in hospice, and those of you in healthcare probably know what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter if you're a family member or someone says, now look, things have changed. Nothing prepares you until you see them. Okay, what do I do with that situation? Do I have a choice? For me, I walked over. Of course, I'm friendly. I think I came in one time. I think Rhonda Ray was there. And I'm like, hey, Carolyn Sue, I made it, or something like, well, you know me. And but I had to walk over to the side because I was not prepared. And Rhonda tried. But I wasn't. But okay, what do you do with it? You still interact with the patient and let them know you're there. You're there because you love them and you want to be with them. Doesn't matter how pitiful they look. Doesn't matter how sad it breaks your heart. You put that aside with God's help. With God's help. And you say, I will be here for you. It's not easy watching someone pass away. I'm not trying to be sad this morning, but these are real situations. And I've been there, done that. Someone, when my mom was in hospice care, gave me some inside know. That's the only reason I knew this. It's called, and I don't always get the word right, where the skin changes. Modeling. Well, I had the right word. I usually call it the wrong name. But someone told me about that. Now, unfortunately, when I had this situation, I knew that happened. But I didn't see it. And then you can't help it. You're like, look, that happened. Because you're wondering, there's a mental stress waiting for someone to pass. There's a mental duress to that. You don't know when it's going to happen. But what are you going to do? Be mad? Honey, can you hurry? I mean, what do you do? You know what I mean? Oh, but it was an opportunity to hold their hand, rub their hand, and talk to them. I just felt like those were our last moments to get to do that. So you suck it up and you push that aside. And I still remember, just before she passed, I had looked away. And I looked back, and it was all over. The modeling. And then we knew. I mean, we kind of knew anyway. But I don't share that to be sad or make anybody upset. That was not a fun situation. That's not something I wish on any of you. It's not something I wish anyone encounters. How you deal with it is up to you. And how you deal with it afterwards is also a choice. And that's the thing I want to remind myself. I think about last night in that picture was just sweet, as children grow older and you capture those moments. And I think about, and maybe all of you have already been doing this, praying about it and thinking about it better. But for me, a thought really struck me. It was as I was doing this lesson. Tomorrow is an event which presents an opportunity. I know it represents much more to some of you, and I'm not taking away from that. But number one, for most of us, it's only an opportunity. And I thought about that. And I thought I want everyone who enters those doors due to that event to be in the know that serving God and experiencing His love is the best thing they could ever invite in. But I will have a choice if I present that. I will have a choice if that's the demeanor and spirit I give off. And I really thought about that. The duty that I have to not just the people coming in, but the loved ones here impacted by this event. You deserve no less from me. That I will demonstrate that love. I thought of it as it is a chance. I want them, and I'm a little idealistic, but that's all right. You serve a God who can do anything, you might as well hope for the best. I want them to walk away from that event thinking, you know what? I felt welcomed and valued while I was there. It could be the one chance you have with some of them to even experience this place. It might be the first time for some they've stepped through a door of that nature into a church building. You don't know. I don't know. Or one of the very few. What will they come away thinking and feeling? What will they think of you, Danny? I'm putting it on me. I'll put it on me first. How do I want them to walk away from this after it's all over? And I'll put it on me. The rest of you may have already been praying much more diligently about it than I have been. But I need to pray harder between now and then. It is so easy to get so wrapped up in life. Not even just this, tomorrow, which is huge. You're supposed to be wrapped up in it. But it's easy in life to get wrapped up in what we have going on and all the things that have to get done. And that's unavoidable. Don't misinterpret that. Traveling and managing care for a loved one and working out who can be there. That takes time, and you can get wrapped up in that. It's consuming. It is easy sometimes, though, I think, maybe not for you, I'll start with me, to fail to reflect on how can I use an opportunity to serve God and express his love in a greater way to people who may or may not ever have seen it or heard it from anyone else. When you go to a university hospital like Rhonda Ray and I were in, some of you are from a larger area, you don't even know if some of them there profess to believe. What if we're the first believers from a family member they've encountered in 3 years, if ever? What did I do with my opportunity? What did I do with that chance to exhibit love? Because I may not get, I don't want it back. God help me. I should not be, I pray for God's guidance and help. I don't need to be in some corner acting like I'm just avoid me. I don't need to be doing that, acting like I'm just enduring it. What kind of love is that going to show somebody? All I'm acting like is I'm just there to endure till it's over. God help me. And it's easy to get in those ruts with life situations, whether it's tomorrow or when you're worn out and you're trying to make it to a hospital. To know you're going to sleep on that little hospital thing. But I had somewhere to lay my head, and I'm thankful. Tomorrow's a big day. It's the first day of school for children. I'll have my students together in class, and I want them to feel loved, valued, and welcomed. I'm very fortunate. I love my job. And I love working with the students. And the first days, they can be draining. Those first few days are draining. My students are in a transition year to a new school. That's hard on them. And because it's hard on them, guess who else it's hard on? The adults trying to help them. They need a lot of guidance. They're very needy. And it takes a lot out of you. And I'll probably have to spend time Monday night making sure I'm ready for Tuesday once it's all said and done. But none of that day stress is anybody's problem who will be attending the event tomorrow. None of that is their problem. God help me to put that aside as best I can and present during that event for me, I pray. Now, this is my prayer for me. Looking for a chance to be friendly, welcoming, and encouraging, which is duh. Everybody wants to be that way, I hope. But you know what? I don't know what all the goals are for each of you. They could be very different. But I would love for everyone who attends tomorrow to come back a week from today because they felt so much love. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And you may say, you're being too idealistic. Good. Because I serve a God who can do anything, and I feel he'll honor my idealism and optimism, not because I'm special, but because he knows the intents behind my hope. If I want to come with I've worked all day, what a day to have an event like this. I don't care. It ain't my day. When Rhonda Ray and I got married, I'm old and independent. We didn't run into a lot of issues. One little snag, so sad, too bad. My day, my way. It was our day, so it was our way. But it was okay for me. Rhonda made most of the decisions. But anyway, when it came to where she needed a little bit of someone to be a backbone backup, I did that. I can handle doing that part. But it's just going to be different. I need to come in with a fresh attitude by the grace of God. And if nobody comes back a week from today, am I going to be discouraged? No. I hope not. Your flesh will battle things. I have a reason to keep praying, a reason to hope that individuals will not forget, that hopefully tomorrow they felt such love, that it at least makes them reflect on their own life and their own heart. What more can you do? You can't make people do anything, but you can demonstrate love. I want them to be in the know on this amazing life with Christ. And it's easy to be around people, and I'll try to wrap it up, who are in the know on something that you already love. If Brother Mark is talking about fishing equipment to someone else who fishes, that's an easy conversation, right, Brother Mark? They're in the know. If Sister Debbie's talking to somebody about landscaping, that's an easy conversation, Sister Debbie. They're in the know. They trade ideas. I just understand dirt, flower going dirt. I probably picked wrong flower. We nurtured weeds and didn't know it. We had an invasive weed in her flower garden. I'm like, oh, look at that. That's interesting. And one day, and Rhonda's watering, I guess. And we drove home one day and I looked on the side of the road and I'm like, Rhonda, I think that's a weed. And it was. We had good intentions. What did it hurt? She pulled them out. I didn't. But if you're talking about something you know, it's easy. If Pastor Allen's talking to somebody about tools, they're in the know. It can be a stretch to talk to somebody who's not in the know on your topic. But that's all right. Is it worth it? It can take time. It takes patience because you have to explain things. But in essence, when you take the time and patience with somebody who's not in the know on that knowledge base concerning what you love, it's still rewarding. You've educated somebody. You may spark a new interest in their life. And are the people who will be here tomorrow worth our time? You better believe they're a human soul. When I think about my students, my heart gets so touched and I'm so humbled. They are human souls sitting in those desks. Somebody loves them. Some of them don't have that. And they're a human soul. They don't know everything I'm going to teach them. Some of them know lots. But that's all right. It's my job to teach them. John 5:31 and 32, and Jesus answering said unto them, they that are whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. I came not to call the righteous, but sinners to repent. There are people who need to be in the know of this love he offers. In Luke 19:10, for the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost. When people visit our fellowship meeting, oftentimes that's quite fun and invigorating because those interactions are super easy. Why? They're already in the know of what it means to serve God and have his love. It may not be a lot of work to interact with them and enjoy their company. But think about the reward of touching somebody's life who isn't in the know already. You think about that. And I'm just using tomorrow. It's it's an example, okay? It could have been if we were facing a loved one who's sick, and then when you interact with people in the hospital, you put it in whatever context you think is best. It could be you at work. What if tomorrow is the day someone's life could be changed for the better? Would it be worth the time and patience you put in it to show and demonstrate that love? You better believe it. But the devil's real, isn't he? The devil will try and present, I think about the countless, often legitimate frustrations that people face. But when you're driving, and I'm using what I can speak to. I'm a school teacher. I can't just miss work. Not that anybody can. I think if you have a good work ethic and you care about what people think about you, you don't just miss. Okay, that concept is very foreign to me. But if you think about it, I can't just be gone. Someone has to be in the room with the students. There is a major shortage of substitutes. Every day I'm gone, it's possible someone else is inconvenienced because they can't find somebody. Do you think that was a layer of stress, even though I'm going to do something positive with a family member? Yeah, because I don't just discount my responsibilities. I had a responsibility to my students. Yes, my loved one took the priority. Yes, I had to choose that, but no, I couldn't forget they existed. That wasn't a possibility. So there are legitimate stresses that come on us in these situations, but you have to navigate them, don't you? I had to. There are frustrations for, I'm sure, people who are heavily involved in whatever circumstance, whether it be tomorrow or work or loved one or friend, whatever the case is. And they can be very legitimate. But I just pray, may the Lord help them, help me, help you. I pray I get a chance, as it was mentioned last night, to show somebody just a little bit of God's love. Oh, before I forget, I'm not sure when I was handed this note, somebody knew what was written on the back of it. I'll share that in a minute. It's okay. Denture removal. I'm not sure. Sorry, I was going to share after. Why not let everybody giggle? So today we have a very special someone who listens online. I had, she's so sweet. I sent her a happy birthday this morning when I sent the image for the lesson. She's like, how did you know? Well, Facebook tells if you don't tell it not to. But happy birthday, Sister Sarah from Oregon. We hope you have a wonderful day. I appreciate being reminded to do that, or being told to do that.
Amen. Thank the Lord for the good lesson and the good points that were brought out. Like what Brother Danny says a lot of times, he'll say, it's not about me. I really like that. That's a very few words, but it's not about me. It's about, sometimes we put ourselves in the situation, just focus on that, but it's not about me. It's about winning souls to the Lord, living a life that's pleasing to God, to help others, to win others. Thank the Lord. Very good lesson this morning. We appreciate that from Brother Danny. All right, we'll take a little bit of a break, and then we'll move on with the service shortly, Lord willing.